All right, so I'm going to start recording right now, guys. Just want to let you know that. What we're doing here is we have Josh here. He's actually I guess, the admin owner and the grandmaster behind the group. And then we have Shayla here. Would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Shayla, Josh's friend.
I needed somebody I could depend on and more level-headed and with more free time than me to help keep this thing going the right direction. So she got the mod job. It pays well at $0.
Very well, very well.
It's awesome. I'm Nick. Josh is just frequents one of my other pages. I'm going to leave that out of here. It's kind of a personal one I do, just kind of invite only, just a little Facebook group. I noticed he sent me an invite to this group today, and it's just been getting blown up. It's been awesome. So I asked him if he needed any help, and then he gave me the mod position, and I saw he was doing a bunch of live videos, and we figured it might be a little bit easier of a way to kind of give him a long-form podcast and just kind of have some of us talk to him, and we're just going to kind of highlight a little bit of what his goal, I guess, for the group that he started is, and how we're going to be changing it a little bit, just because I think it got a lot bigger than he ever expected it to be, and it's been going awesome. So he just kind of wanted to make a video and describe kind of what the goals are and just everything. So I guess I'll let you take it away and I guess explain kind of why you started it and what the goal of this group is.
Yeah, so obviously everyone paid attention to Virginia when that all started. I've been the absolute definition of a shit poster meme boy on Instagram. I saw Churjicon through his various, different Instagram accounts, and I saw what he was doing, and I was like, man, that's great he does that, and I hope to God I never have to do that. And then I saw what was going on in Kentucky, and where I'm at in the state, it's right there. I've lived in Kentucky. I wouldn't mind living in Kentucky again. It's a cool state overall. So I started assisting there. I went to Kenton County and Boone County, which are right next to me, down here in Dearborn. I went to those meetings. I got to talk at one. The other one had like 600 people come to it, which was fantastic. So I didn't feel the need for a out-of-towner to speak, so to say. But then I just heard the SB 203, that 10-round mag ban, and
No, it's an age ban.
well, it's an age ban and a mag ban. It's
No, what are you talking about? There's no age. There's no magazine ban.
Yeah. So I saw that,
Kidding.
and Kentucky United, they had a massive page. It had like 70,000 people, and I got with a couple people on there. I talked to some people that were running a county individual group, which kind of gave me the inspiration for what has occurred so far. So I can't take all the credit, but I hit go and I kept it rolling downhill.
Yeah, kind of one of the things we talked about before this a little bit, and one of the things I wanted to touch on, and you were talking about, and it was something that you mentioned, and I think is really important. So I hate to put words in your mouth, so I apologize ahead of time. But what you were saying is, with all the Virginia and everything going on, that's kind of, I think, one of the reasons why this page might be taking off a lot, because I think there's a lot more people that are, I don't know. Sorry, this is not what you said. I'm kind of trying to loop back in, but I think there's a lot of people more interested in the Second Amendment movement now, that it's kind of becoming a little bit more, I guess, public and a little bit more local to us. But what you were saying before is kind of being proactive about stopping gun control before it even happens, as opposed to reacting, kind of like in Virginia where it's already too late.
Yeah, a lot of states you deal with, oh, this law is coming forward. It's something we saw under the Trump era, and this is going to make a lot of people mad, because you got to pick the better of two evils, essentially. And it didn't give us any pro-gun stuff. Everyone just sat back and chilled. And I obviously saw this working in the gun industry. the weekend prior to the election, I, as a single individual, sold $30,000 worth of guns in like 18 hours. It was insane. And the weekend after, we didn't sell $100 all day. So people went to sleep on gun rights. And they didn't fight for anything. And it stayed like that.
Yeah, I think it's funny that a lot of people, rather than voicing their opinion, going to a local county election, county courthouse meeting. Sorry, I'm completely blanking. But instead of actually being a part in the politics, I think it's funny that a lot of people just go out and spend a couple $100s on a gun, which, I mean, that makes sense. It's fine. But I think one of the huge reasons why I'm really intrigued in this group, why I'm really happy with it, is I was born and raised. I wasn't born. I was born in Washington, but I was raised on the West Coast. I was raised in California, and I'm one of those. Everyone hates us. Californians that moved out to Indiana, and I really don't want that happening here. I think it's really funny because where I grew up in Northern California, it's very rural. It's very similar to Indiana, where we have the very rural areas, and we have the very not so much, the urban populations, and it is very diverse. But one thing I can tell you about California is everything was retroactive. Like no one really tried, it seemed, as publicly to fight the gun control until after it was already passed. It's the same thing with, like, if you're going to buy a gun right before you think someone's going to pass a law against it. I agree with that. I understand that. I understand your purpose. But to me, it's all those people care about guns. All those people care and want to own one, want to protect their family. Why aren't those people out here contacting their sheriff, contacting their representatives? Why aren't these people doing something prior to it so you don't have to go and stock up on 14 million rounds because you think that your state's going to go ban them? And so that's one of the things for me, is being proactive instead of retroactive. I guess I'm going to kind of switch topics to this a little bit, just kind of the administration of the page. Earlier you were deleting a lot of the posts, and you were kind of talking about that in your live. So like, what's your goal for the page now? And then I also kind of want to talk about the website a little bit, if that's okay.
Yeah, so the page started out, because everyone's a member of a gun page, everyone's a member of Facebook, we see the same stuff. There is no original content anymore as far as through the gun groups. One person might have something for a hundredth of a second, but with a share button, the whole world's seen it. So I just wanted to keep it really bill focused, and now it's shifted a little more towards a cultural change, because I knew we needed it, but now I really see we need it. I wasn't sure if it was just my area because of how rural we are, but the whole state needs cultural gun change, as far as just what everyone's opinions are on guns, and an exposure past the hunting level. Shayla's a prime example. I personally took her shooting first time ever. She can talk about that a little bit, I'm sure.
Okay, that's awesome, actually. So yeah, he told me a little bit. I got to listen to his live video, but some people watching this might not. But Shayla, you kind of want to tell us about why originally you were anti-gun, and kind of maybe how he changed your opinion?
So I am a vascular surgery nurse, so I see the opposite side of guns on the regular. I had to treat patients that were victims of the Sutherland Springs shooting. So it was a lot of PTSD from that event, and the city that I live in, a large metropolitan area, all the time, every day, everybody's shooting each other up with their guns for no reason. So that was a lot of my bias towards, I'm not saying, well, I guess, by your definition, I was anti-gun because I thought that there were certain people in this world that should not have weapons.
Sorry, we have this huge thing, and we talked about this earlier too, where there's like, we split, conquer, and divide everyone, where you're either pro-gun, you're going to sit on the corner with us, picket, and sit on the state house with your AR-15, and then you have the anti-gunners. And that's such a horrible thing, because I hate that in the gun community we do that. So I hate to say anti-gun, because that is just it's so cold hard. But just someone who didn't really care to even think about the Second Amendment, I guess is a better term to define it.
So I work for the military, so I I see the need for weapons because I know the kind of weapons that they have, and I know what they can fight you with. So like it was a really big gray area for me that I discussed extensively with Josh because I didn't have the knowledge. I just had my own personal bias. But he was patient with me. He took the time with me. We had several long conversations about why there shouldn't be this law, that law, this number of bullets means I'm a felon, whatever. And then he took me shooting where I had an anxiety attack, but he worked through that. Um, it was just a lot of willingness to answer my questions and not be offended when I presented my own, I guess you can say, counter argument to his claim.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's something that when you hear a story, and that's something I love. I come from California. We kind of live in a bubble there, where we don't really have any exposure to guns. The only reason the way I am today is I joined the military. It has nothing to do with the military. I was infantry in the Army, so I was surrounded by guns. I was in a sniper section for a little while, so that was really cool. But that's not really what converted me. What actually converted me kind of was the same thing. Even in the Army, shooting and doing it all the time, it definitely got rid of the fear for me. And so that was something that's really funny to me is a lot of people don't talk about that, but before you shoot a gun, there's just this like weird object that you look at. You're like, oh, this is horrifying. And then you go and you can kind of, once you touch it and realize, oh, it's a piece of metal and nothing will happen until I make it happen. It kind of makes you understand it a little bit more. So it's really funny to me that there's so many people that are going to make decisions about guns that have never even really been exposed to one or really understand it fully. Do you think that shooting and understanding the gun is kind of what converted you, or do you think it was, I guess, him talking to you about it? Do you think it was the person behind it, or was the lack of fear behind it? Does that make any sense?
Well, I'm still terrified of guns. There's a gun in my I'm not terrified of people having guns. It's not something that I want to go to the range every day and shoot guns or join Josh's track team.
Yeah, my wife's the same way.
But it really was the person and the intent behind the conversation and the willingness to be patient with me. I know that the information is out there, and if I want to be educated, it's up to me to seek it out. However, when you try to seek out this information regarding the Second Amendment, gun rights, gun laws, red flag laws, etc., it's always a biased. You have to go through so many levels of bullshit before you find the truth. And he's someone that was willing to give me the truth and actually have a dialogue with me.
Yeah, I guess, Josh, where I was getting you at, I'm just going to ask you on this, coming from, being a gun store owner and being a part of that is, how do you...
I didn't have to own the whole
Oh,
thing.
sorry. I was just, the only reason I'm saying that is because you are exposed to people that have probably never been around a gun before ever and just kind of walk in your shop. So
I was an instructor for about 2.5 years semi-professionally because it was my for fun job on top of my regular job. I basically worked like 70 to 100 hours a week, 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Friday, and then 12 to 14-hour weekends, days each. The instruction money was great, but I had more enjoyment helping people, and that's why I stuck around at it so long. I mean, literally worked myself borderline to death a couple times. But it was just so rewarding to help people. I mean, you name the stereotype, and I've taught them 20 times. Single moms, battered women, new gun owners, new families. I taught, father-daughter groups, mother-son. I taught people from foreign countries that the only way legally they could even touch a gun is if they did it through an instructive class with me. And it was the most rewarding thing they could have ever done, they said, when they came to America, because they can't do it at home. And it was people from countries like Germany where you've got H&K. I worked with some French people, some Brits, a few other European countries, a lot of Asian countries, China, Japan. tons of people. I mean, I've just got so much exposure to all the different cultures coming out and coming into our little cultural bubble of my part of the Indiana and the tri-state area, because I'm down in Cincinnati.
I can learn to understand.
So I just call it Cincinnati because it's the easiest thing where we're from. But I mean, I've worked with thousands of people on a personal instruction level.
So, I mean, I guess is that kind of what brings you into doing this? Is that just, seeing every day how many different, all the different demographics that are part of this, or, like, is this group's goal to get everyone converted, or is this group's goal to get legislation passed in our favor? I guess that's what my question is.
It's a good mix of both. I'm realistic. I understand that not every person is going to have the level of self-responsibility to carry a firearm. I mean, we all know that person that can barely, get their shoes tied and be at work on time. So, if they choose to not have a firearm or carry a firearm, I'm for them having that choice. Just the same way I would be afforded the choice that I should be able to carry a firearm. I'm not advocating for 100% armament of the entire populace. Yeah, that'd be cool, but not everyone wants to do that.
Yeah.
On the flip side of it, I would like to get a lot more pro-gun laws passed. I have had a lot of people running for office contact me as far as helping them with being actually pro Second Amendment and not just pro-gun. That's been really cool. I've talked to a couple people from different congressional districts in Indiana. I just was on chat with Kurt Nilsey. That bill is not a trap. It's just worded terribly, apparently.
Yeah, see, actually, when you went into that, I was kind of expecting it to be a wheel and deal sales. But yeah, I guess, I mean, I definitely, I want to look into it and read it. I wish I was a lawyer so I can understand this stuff, because it was kind of the same thing with the bill we just discussed earlier, where, it was kind of a age for rifles to, bill that, was easy to swallow, that actually, categorized weapons and ended up bringing magazine restrictions and ugh. But yeah, so I was definitely that I was definitely very. When I was messaging you while we were talking to him, I heard the same thing. So it's kind of nice hearing that. But I guess it's kind of cool that they're talking to you, and I'm hoping they're not expecting you to plug them on the page or anything like that.
Yeah, if someone, I'm a salesman. That's truly what I am, regardless of being a firearms instructor and doing that on the side and a shooter and what have you. I sell things, so I understand immediately where a person's coming from. Some of my earlier jobs, if I didn't sell today, I didn't eat today. So I've got that ability to read people and figure them out pretty instantaneously. So if someone's coming at me, just get cheap votes, I'm not about that. But if someone's going to be honest with me and have that discussion to where I can either educate them or convert them, I'm 100% for that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hopefully in the future we can just get you and the politician here and record it and kind of just let you talk, because it would have been awesome if we could have just recorded that conversation. A couple reasons. One, I'm kind of really curious to see how he was describing the bill, and like how you said it was worded poorly. And two, I think it would really hold him accountable.
Oh yeah, so, when you go on a live broadcast and you say stuff out loud. I mean, screenshots are one thing, and as you know, screenshots can ruin anyone's career.
But lying to your face.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been nice.
Potentially tens of thousands of viewers.
Okay. The other thing that we talked about that you wanted to touch on was, I guess, the group structure itself. So how basically now we're gonna have you're gonna have the state page that you're gonna kind of run, and it's just gonna be the page with basic news about Indiana. Or so, what did you want on the state page? And then, so what exactly are we gonna be seeing on that state page? What are we gonna be seeing on the county pages? And then, I guess, kind of events wise, what events are gonna be kind of where?
So, a big thing with the state page is going to be direct and easy to find stuff. Just with any Facebook group, if you go in and you see an article and you're like, oh, that's awesome, and then you get a chat or a text or something, and you hop out of it on your phone and it reloads, it's lost forever. Just because there's just so much junk. I want to keep it very clean and organized so people can easily find stuff. The main reason I did the county page is so that people could pick stuff up and run that wanted to do it. I didn't search these people out and, say, okay, you're going to be the guy. I said, hey, can you do this? Do it. And so far, every county leader I've not had any trouble with. They've all been doing great. This is 100% volunteer stuff. I have found out people are selling stuff under a very similar name to my page, which, hey, that happens. Never waste a good crisis when you can make money. But I just tell people every live I do, every broadcast I do, almost every post I make, we're zero profit, zero sales. Just because I know someone's going to spend like $100 and the worst case situation, they don't get their t-shirts, that page gets deleted, and then someone comes to me like, where's my money? And I say, what money?
Yeah. Okay, awesome. I guess the only other question is, at least about the page itself. So with that, are we intending on doing, do you have any events planned yet, or is that kind of something for the future? Do you want to do any rallies, just anything along those lines? Do you have anything you see in short term, or do you think that's kind of more of a long-term goal?
It's definitely something long-term, but no one likes that answer because everyone wants something right now.
It's the society we live in. Everyone's 30 seconds or less.
Yeah, I've had people reach out to me. I don't want to call it a knockoff page, but a page with a very similar name is promoting something. I want to get in contact with them and make sure, they're not misrepresenting us with the name, and they're got all their ducks in a row. And if they're cool, I will gladly share their information with everyone watching and everyone in the group, so that way they can take their 3,000 person group and get them 50,000 people of exposure. The downside to that is I have to be responsible and make sure they're legit in their cause and their setup of everything, because I don't want that many people upset with me. We show up to a gun rally and it's either canceled, the setup never really happened, things like that, because you've got to take off work for these things. A big thing why I say it's long term is we don't have the numbers to have anything effective. Kentucky United, they did a rally on the Capitol House steps, and frankly they're in much worse shape than Indiana is with the amount of anti-gun bills. And they've got 70K people, and they had about 250 show up. So just using that as a metric, I don't want to be like me, you, and 8 other people standing around. Like, well, this is cool. You want to go to get some food? That's not an effective use of anyone's time. Besides, we get to hang out.
Yeah, I really like how you broke it down into the counties. I don't know if that was one of the things that you borrowed from the other group, but either way, I think it's a really good idea. I think having a local figurehead will kind of help herd the cats.
It's definitely cat herding. From running a Facebook channel, from being a nurse, adults don't listen to anything you say, no matter what.
Yeah, I think I think in the future here, I really like the idea that you're kind of. I hate to say this, a lot of the people. I guess I'm going to say it one more time. The state page itself is probably going to be on. Again, really only going to be the admins posting anything on there, and that's simple. Facebook, pretty much up front, is not really Second Amendment friendly, and so for those of us who've run groups with similar themes, I can tell you now that pretty much anything will get you a strike, and 2 or 3 of those and your page is gone. And so it would be a real shame to have all this momentum and get it thrown out by some just meme, and it really can happen. So that's kind of one of the main reasons. And then the other thing he was saying is just kind of keeping it simple, so that way when you go on there, it's information and that's it. So you kind of keep it as an educational platform, not necessarily memes, because I'm sure we get enough of those on our Facebook page as it is.
Yeah, and just to touch on the meme things, and I had someone, well, I've had multiple, probably
We've
20
all
or
seen
30 people attack me personally because I wouldn't let them post a meme. And I said, your content doesn't stand on its own because you provide no content. You hit a share button. You know, if you want to make change, do more than click a single button.
I'm actually being attacked right now because in the page I made a pretty long-winded post explaining how, again, everything we do is under a microscope. We're on a platform that doesn't like your platform at all. Or sorry, we're on a platform that doesn't like your position at all.
Yeah, it is.
We're in pretty much, it seems even social media, regular media, everyone really is kind of against us. So everything we do is going to be under a microscope. So I explained that because we did have some issues with, I believe it was Columbus County. Was that? Gosh, I forget the name of that post. But anyway, I removed some comments that could be determined as racist, and I basically reiterized that anyone that posts anything that could be offensive is going to be muted. Because, again, we're here not... I don't care what you say. You have your First Amendment rights. That's fine. On Facebook, you don't. Everything you say is going to represent all of us as gun owners and Second Amendment and the whole page, and can get it all taken down. So I just kind of wanted to reiterate that, because even literally as you said that's so funny. I'm getting flamed in my messages, my private messages. People are mad at me because I'm removing their posts that are pretty clearly racist. But
yeah, I had someone message me on Instagram about you.
Cool.
Be like, who's this guy? Why? I've been here forever. I'm like, well, what'd you do? Said this, and I'm like, well, I'd have blocked you too. And then he just didn't respond.
Yeah.
But last night, Shayla, she had the same thing.
I know, you can see in her face. She's just like, yep.
She screenshotted the rules that everyone sees before they come in and posted them. And it turned into like 800 comments deep in 5 minutes. Just pitchforks and torches.
Assault weapon keyboards.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess kind of now that we talked about just the broad nature of the group and everything, I guess kind of bring it a little bit off topic, but it's not really off topic, but kind of what you were talking about earlier, like she was saying kind of how you converted her, and how you said you're kind of with people all the time with different opinions, different demographics. At me, I'm really bad at debating stuff without preparing for it. That's why I kind of like the podcast. I can write some stuff down over here, kind of have at least an idea of what I'm talking about, because I kind of, run my thought train. When someone comes up to you and, like, completely unfamiliar with, guns as a whole, comes up to you in a range or whatever it may be and asks, like, why the hell do I need to own an AR-15? Why does anyone need to own this? This is obviously meant for killing people. This is not meant for hunting. This is not meant for blah, blah, blah. What do I tell them? I know me personally, I can explain to you why an AR-15 is the best home defense weapon. I can explain to you why I can use it for, I can explain all this to you, but I really can't explain to someone who has no idea what it is why it's, why it should be legal. Any assault weapon should be legal.
Yeah. So you got to air quote that assault weapon, because it depends on your state. The 22 could be an assault weapon. So there's a lot that goes into that. And again, working in the gun store world, oh God. All right, 20% power, we can make it. So working in the gun store world, and I say this in virtually all my lives, some of the most against certain guns, borderline even anti-gun people, are gun owners. So I get asked that question every day I work in a gun store. Sometimes multiple times by multiple different people. So you kind of got to quantitate the person and figure out. And it's a little different being an employee of a facility versus just being a guy, having that conversation. The biggest thing I always tell people is they're not banning a particular gun, banning speech. So with like Kentucky, they had this proposed assault weapons ban, and I just took a pink Post-it note, just a little mini one, and I put it on every single gun that was affected. And any person that walked in that day, they're like, why are all these guns have Post-it notes? I'm like, here's this law. I slid them a little half sheet of paper. This is the person's contact information. Every gun you see would become illegal. And it was just like a silent pause of, oh, maybe I don't like this gun, but it's going to take away guns I do like. So again, it's not a long road. It's not a short answer. It's a long road. You've got to work with people, and people don't want to do that.
Yeah, I think there's a really large cognitive dissonance that people have, when it comes to this, I guess before I change topic, but it's the same thing with this. I'm a huge proponent of suppressors. If I ever got in a home defense situation, I would prefer to keep my hearing. I don't necessarily think I'm going to have hearing protection, and even if I did, there's potential that I shoot, short barrel rifles, pistols, whatever. I like suppressors. A lot of people look at it and it's big, scary. But it's funny to me because I go to the range, and every time I go to the range, I'll take people out shooting. And if it's not my 22, I'll shoot a rifle. And I'll be like, wow, that's pretty loud. I'm like, yeah, it's pretty freaking loud. It just doesn't destroy your hearing. And it's funny because there's so many gun owners who are like, I don't need a suppressor. I don't need to be quiet. I don't understand. I'm like, well, what are you going to do if someone kicks in your house, kicks in your door? This very, very unlikely hypothetical. They're like, oh, I'll get my gun, shoot them. I'm like, well, cool. You just made you and your wife deaf.
Yeah.
So
as someone who worked in an enclosed indoor range,
it's horrible.
Even with doubled up hearing protection, I've had metered hearing loss with limited exposure. 2 hours, 2 to 10 hours a week, over a couple of years, and that's with doubled up ear pro. So just think of lighting one off indoors. I mean, I know a lot of people do it hunting, and there's a lot of people that shoot without ear protection, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, you only have 2 ears, and you're not growing anymore. So I guess I'm going to ask you, sorry, I don't know if you can tell, you're on the left, and then you're on the right. So I'm going to ask you, Sheila. Shayla, excuse me. God, I'm sorry, but I'm going to ask you, so as someone, and like you said, you're not a huge, I want to own every gun, like me and him probably are, and you are someone that kind of came from a background that wasn't super, pro Second Amendment. What would you like to tell kind of people like me and him that, for us, this is a huge part of our life, and like, how do I go to someone who was in your position and change their mind?
I think that the first thing that you should do is present them with facts, like straight up. What really got through to me was when he was like showing me his different types of weapons and was like explaining to me I could go to jail just for having this, or this gun would be illegal if I made the barrel 1 inch longer or something like that. That really got through to me. Like, wow, why are there so many ridiculous laws that can make my best friend a felon? That was really eye-opening to me. So that worked for me, but my mind works like that. So I don't know. I think the key is just being patient with the person and not being offended when they ask you questions that goes against your beliefs, because I don't have the same beliefs. You want me to have the same beliefs. You should be open to me questioning your beliefs.
Yeah, I think
and have solid answers.
Yeah, the toxicity is rampant in this community, and like you were saying, some of the worst anti-gunners are actually people that are gun owners. But yeah, I guess that's kind of just the last thing I was gonna get at here. Do you have anything else you kind of wanted to bring up? It's already getting pretty long, but I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to bring up.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel like I struggled to have a 15-minute long live.
Yeah.
Keeping it that short. Because I do like these, kind of open talks, and the last live I did, I wrote down 6 or 7 full pages of notes of everything I wanted to talk about. And then I left it at work, so I had to rewrite it, and still got about 4. So, I'm very open to the long-winded stuff. I do like to talk about it. But if there's one thing I could just impart on people, it's that, like I've been saying, if you meet a new person, do you punch them in the face or do you shake their hand?
That's awesome.
It's a powerful message on a lot of levels. And we as gun owners need to think like that. Everyone wants, well, not everyone, but people want this level of violence. And it's like, if you did that in any other contact, anyone else would hate you. So why do you think it's going to work here? I mean, that's my big thing as far as cultural change that needs to happen. It's not even necessarily converting, anti-gun gun owners. That definitely needs to happen. But pulling back some of the reins as far as when we reach out to new people or when new people contact you, regardless of your level of experience, just be patient and genuine with them. If you don't know, direct them to someone who does.
Awesome. Do you have anything else?
No.
All right. I guess we're going to wrap this up. But yeah, so that's awesome. I'll have to remember that because I know I kind of came into this and a person was the same way. But yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to go ahead and stop recording and thank you guys. Hopefully we can kind of do a little bit more choreographed one, kind of get better talking points and, kind of keep this a little bit up. The quality might not be the best, but we'll try to make it a little bit better for next week. Or when do you want to do this again?
I'm usually free weekday nights whenever. It's the weekends that can get kind of long. Just all depends. I like to... There's a guy running for Congress. I think we could get onto this.
Okay.
He's kind of in a similar spot as she is, not to where he was super against guns at one point, but he came to me. He's like, I don't own a gun. I am pro-gun, but I don't know. Please help.
Well, if you would like, you can message him and you can say we can get him on kind of a long-winded podcast like this. And if he would like, and I understand him being from a political spectrum, might not really want to see kind of rambling and not really understanding. But if you'd like, we can do this, and then I can send him the fully recorded, unedited version and see if he's okay with us posting this. Because I wouldn't mind just being able to sit there and talk with him, let alone before we post this on Facebook.
Yeah.
So if he wants to do that, I'm perfectly fine with just spending some of my time talking with him and asking him questions and letting him ask us questions. And then if he's okay with us posting that later, we can always do that. So that way, we don't have to be like, hey, everything you say is on record. So, he can.
You can make the fault here, and we're not gonna, burn you down because you're trying to help us.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's awesome. All right, sweet. So I'm gonna stop recording here. Thank you guys so much for your time, and honestly, thank you so much for starting this group. I'm really look forward to seeing that map update. I'm excited for that.
Yeah. There's gonna be a lot of stuff rolling out blue next week. Hopefully, some green. Looks like a lot of stuff is just going to be in February. So.
And red's not final.
Yeah.
All right. Bye, guys.